Hong Kong roots. This is the hashtag that I gave for my partner today, Stella. I remember back in, 2002, we had an open day. And for this, all divisions needed to prepare a presentation on what their students' work was and to follow a theme. And for Stella, she had her students do one of their projects, prepare their work, and it was related to looking at street markets. And she followed the life history of the people that were working inside the street markets and looked at the objects that filled their lives and looked at the pattern of the development of their lives and their history. And I found that really fascinating because when we look at Hong Kong, it really has a very rich diversity in terms of human experience and human past, so that we always have this kaleidoscope or mosaic of different patterns living next to each other. And Stella showed me how these threads could be taken and woven into a piece of cloth that you could then see as the whole fabric of society. And I thought she did that in really a very amazing way.
Hashtag Hong Kong roots 其實我覺得都好適合我嘅嚇。咁我喺香港出世啦，咁我細時候咧識得嘅人都係好多唔同國家、好多唔同文化嘅人。因為我住尖沙咀區，所以我細時候咧都其實會覺得我自己即係人喺香港，但係有可能都可以去世界各種地方旅遊或者直情可以住嗰度一陣時間嘅。咁好多親戚朋友都係咁，所以我覺得其中一個我香港嘅根咧，都覺得我哋自己可以漂流飛嚟飛去。但係人somehow我就算我喺外國咧，每10年都有一次會翻嚟香港。每一次翻嚟香港都見到好大嘅轉變，個轉變對我嚟講好有吸引力，好想翻嚟呢度。咁終於讀完書，差唔多讀完書之後咧，我要寫畢業論文，最後尾我諗嘅題目都係關於香港。我對 Lawrence 最長時間最深刻嘅印象係我哋搬咗嚟九龍灣。咁佢嘅辦公室咧，佢個 office 喺12樓，咁我自己喺13樓，但我成日喺13樓都見到佢嘅。另外啲12樓嘅同事，即係你要去12樓先揾到佢。但係 Lawrence 點解成日喺13樓咧 ？Lawrence 就我邊度見到佢咧？就喺廚房飲咖啡。咁我問佢12樓都有咖啡飲，點解唔喺12樓咧？佢話13個樓嘅咖啡係值得行樓梯上嚟，係因為好唔同嘅。咁所以即係有幾年嘅時間，可能我唔知有幾多年嘅時間都見到 Lawrence 喺嗰度飲咖啡。
Taste buds happy? Well, sometimes, though I'm not eating all the time. I don't think I look quite that fat, do I? But I do certainly enjoy food, that's true, so I think that's fair enough. But I guess what Stella had in mind with this one was probably a little more related to that I teach food science, and I do have to actually prepare food sometime as part of that. But of course, taste buds happy. I like the happy bit. I suppose I am quite happy here. I've always been happy in the college. I'm very happy in Hong Kong. I'm happy with my colleagues, and most of the time I am happy with my students. So I guess that's a lot to smile about. Not just the taste buds. I think we've got a great life here. Okay, I certainly think MUN 4, liberal arts, are very interesting. And I think, having learned so much about science, I think it's a good idea to learn about other areas as well. Certainly, when we look at any subject, you shouldn't just take it in isolation. You have to appreciate that our whole human understanding, our whole body of knowledge, this isn't something that you can subdivide, cut into little sections and treat each one individually. It's a composite. And everybody who studies anything should always make sure that they're not becoming too restricted. They need to have a wider appreciation. So What it would actually involve, I don't really know because I haven't been studying it. So this is something I want to find out about. And
Science. Actually, 其實我讀過 science 嘅。我中學畢業嘅時候咧，就問我媽媽，我大學應該讀乜嘢？咁佢就話我哋全部啲親戚佢哋讀入 U 都係要做醫生嘅。咁我原本係個 pre-med 嚟嘅，但係讀咗一陣時間，都慢慢都發覺其實我寧願係讀 liberal arts， 但係我都讀過 chemistry 啊 biology 咁樣。我覺得如果而家讀 science 啦，都會同 arts 有多啲關係。例如我對嗰嗰啲食物嗰個叫咩係叫咩分子美食molecular gastronomy 都好有興趣所以如果 chemistry 可以即係如果你有機會教呢啲科目，我都會 take 呢個班咁樣。我食過臘腸雪糕嘅，但係其實唔係咁好食嘅。其實喺我教好多科目咧，都要做 field trip report 嘅。咁佢 field trip report 當然一樣嘅。有啲咧就令到佢哋可以對於而家我哋住嘅城市有多啲興趣。咁叫佢哋去翻嗰啲地方，當然喺我哋啲科如果學嘅嘢咧，我哋會問嘅問題係唔一樣。咁會睇翻佢哋有冇嘅新嘅眼光咧嚟睇翻，或者佢哋直情自己好熟悉嘅地方。
Okay, I guess a field trip report is very obvious for me. But the point about a field trip report is not the report. Actually, I don't really worry too much about the assessment. The point is, as Stella, you pointed out, it's doing the field trip that matters. When you get out in the field and you can see the living organisms, it's a completely different matter to actually just looking at them in a textbook, hearing about a lecture, even seeing a video. One of the things that you get is a sense of scale that is very hard to get from published materials. When you look at an image, even if it shows a background, you don't get the complete immersion that you can get from actually just standing on a hillside. One of the things I like best is when I do a field trip and it starts raining and the students all say, oh no, what are we going to do? And of course we just carry on. A little bit of rain isn't going to stop a field trip. Do you think life stops because we have a weather we don't like? Actually, one of the problems on our terrestrial field trips is that we get a lot of wangfeng, that is large bees, and they like the students, but the students don't like them. I must say, though, that I do not have favorite students. This is something one, of course, should be careful of in a class, that you don't favor students particularly. But in my case, it's quite easy because I don't think I have any students that ever complete the required readings in every time before the lesson. The vast majority of students will do the readings after the lesson.
我都係好重視準時上堂，直情係上堂即係唔準時都要上堂嘅。咁好得意喎！我發覺就係 science 嘅學生係最準時嘅，我唔知點解。文化科目都係同生活有關嘅，咁所以一齊上堂先會討論呢啲嘢。或者佢哋自己，我都有啲老師，即係我之前做學生嘅老師都會讚我哋或者多謝我哋話，哇！我透過今日上堂，我都透過你哋學咗好多嘢。咁我而家做老師嘅時候就發覺都係㗎，呢個最寶貴㗎。即係我係透過我啲學生係學到非常非常多嘅嘢。咁如果唔上堂，我都冇啲機會透過佢哋學到一啲嘢咯。你答先啊！你揀邊個 ？B 啊
？B。
因為我啲學生唔係 exactly 做 做到任何嘢。好 B 啦，我揀 B 啦。
Is the problem for teaching, because if we have a situation like this, I've explained something many times to the students and they still couldn't get their point. This is obviously my fault, not that of the student, because I'm failing to put the material across in a way that they can assimilate. So this, of course, is challenging, but it isn't something insurmountable. It's something that you have to work around. It occurs quite often. I just had a case like this morning, and I find it instructive because I see the world from my point of view. But of course, the student sees the world from their point of view, and that can be very different. And I'm sure I have far more preconceptions than they do, and I will tend to make many assumptions about what should normally be known. And this may not be relevant from their perspective. So I think it's perfectly acceptable for such a situation to turn up, and I actually enjoy going down a step-by-step process, trying to meet them and get them to assimilate the material. So I think it's very good for people to have an opinion. What we need to teach them is that they have to learn how to challenge their own opinions, a critical ability to see something and judge themselves whether or not it is what it should be.
I chose B. I find that no matter how precise your instructions are, that semester after semester, the students have new questions, which is okay with me. So, and sometimes I would add new things to the instructions so they would understand. But of course, if I add everything to the instruction could be like 10 pages long, you know, so there's only a limit to how long the instructions could be.
Nhập實驗室撳急掣。
入實驗室撳緊急掣。
Actually, I think from a point of view of the institution, I was never any good at studying. I had a very lively childhood at school, and I frequently had problems with studying. So I actually didn't pay much attention to my classes at all. I was always much more interested in, well, the natural world, and school itself seemed a rather dry and boring place, so I tried to avoid it as much as possible. I really only started studying after I got into university, which is when I found the subjects were actually interesting. And the university I went to had a lot of resources available, so that I followed much of my studying myself rather than following the course. So I found that was a very enjoyable time at which I could explore the subject, and I could meet people who had a considerable insight into the subject on a scale that really wasn't possible at school. School, I never was any good at studying, I don't think.
我係好需要對嗰個subject 感覺到有興趣，我先會係肯睇嗰個科目啲書啊，同埋做功課咁樣。我記得我中學嘅時候咧，嗰陣時有嗰個 physics 個老師理科。即係可能我嗰陣時，如果個老師冇離開我哋學校，我可以係個生個學生嚟嘅，咁真係好有興趣。咁我直情攞到 A in physics 㗎，係嘛？咁第二個 sem 換咗老師啦，我攞到嘅 F， 真係個老師係可以咁大分別嘅。關於你對嗰個題目有冇興趣，我又唔係好知，即係自己想做乜嘢嗰陣時，就係即係唔係好有目標，同埋對嗰啲 subject 未有興趣住咁樣嘅。或者如果我熱心想做嘅醫生又好唔同，但係我又唔係咁樣咁所以我都係嗰陣時我離開咗學校一陣時間咁去周圍去做咗 part time 工咁就用咗少少時間旅行，咁嗰陣時先知道我真係對呢啲比較文化 art 嗰種科目好有興趣。如果我要教 Lawrence 任何科目，我諗我真係第一就係會睇翻個 textbook， 我要做翻學生，咁我一定會跟題目嘅。係咪？因為即係佢教啲嘢對我嚟講係陌生啲。但係如果係我就諗翻 ，OK， 如果個科係 botany 啦，咁我會帶一啲比較生活化嘅嘢上堂，因為我諗我自己教 教書都想啲學生感覺到佢哋學嗰樣嘢同生活有關嘅。喺個城市喺 Botany 有咩需要？咁而家我哋學校都係喺城市入邊嘅。我諗我都會問佢哋，即係你如果留喺城市入邊，咁你用 Botany 喺個城市入邊，其實可以做乜嘢？咁我會帶呢一個生活化嘅角度，或者佢哋嘅將來用 Botany 可以做乜嘢嗰個角度。但當然我唔會成堂講呢啲嘢，可能未必或者1/4、1/3嘅時間會討論呢啲嘢。
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry to say that your normal teacher is unavailable today because she's had to go into quarantine. What we're going to do to start with is we're going to examine everybody's diet and we'll compare the different foods that you like, and then we'll look at the variability in your subjective preferences, your sensory preferences for different foods. And to help you with it, I've brought along some samples of food for you this morning. So the first thing I will do is I'll lay out all these samples of food, and then I would like you to come and try them out. And I have a little questionnaire here for you, Manfor, and you have to fill it in with the different sensory preferences for particular food items. Now, when you look at these foods, you will find that some of them are Asian foods, some of them are European foods. So we are contrasting different Western and Eastern influences in this lesson. Okay, if you're all ready now, then we'll start. You know what the English name for Ceylan Fa is?
Actually, I hate Ceylan Fa, but anyway.
But you don't
broccoli.
Broccoli, that's right. Well, Stella, do you like James Bond?
James. I haven't watched those movies in a very long time. Yeah.
Oh, he's still alive. He's very old now, but he still does all these exciting things.
Yeah.
Well, the director for the James Bond films in the early days was somebody called Broccoli. And his father was the person who bred broccoli. He is an American of Italian origin, and he was farming in the United States, and he developed this new breed of vegetable, which we call broccoli.
Are you a fan of broccoli?
No, but I'm a fan of James Bond.
Okay.